The candles on my birthday cake flickered as I sat frozen in my chair, watching my sister Sophia's hand rest on her barely visible belly. The restaurant around us had gone completely silent, and I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. 28 candles, 28 years of life, and this was how my sister chose to celebrate it. "I'm pregnant," Sophia said again, her voice cutting through the thick air like a blade. "And Ryan is the father." I looked across the table at my husband of 3 years, Ryan, who couldn't meet my eyes. His face was red, his hands shaking as he reached for his wine glass. The man I had trusted with my heart, my business, my entire future, had been sleeping with my own sister. "Elena, please say something," my mother whispered from beside me, but I couldn't speak. I couldn't even breathe properly. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way Sophia smiled when she said it, like she was announcing good news at a family gathering. It was the way she had planned this moment, waited for my birthday dinner to drop this bomb. It was the way she reached across the table and grabbed Ryan's hand, showing everyone at the table that they were together now. "How long?" I finally managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. 6 months, Sophia said, still smiling. "We didn't plan it, Elena. It just happened." 6 months. That meant she was already showing when we went on our family vacation to the beach last month. That meant when Ryan said he was working late all those nights, he was with her. That meant when I was planning our anniversary dinner, he was planning his future with my sister. I stood up so fast my chair fell backward. Everyone in the restaurant turned to look at our table, but I didn't care. My legs felt like water, but I forced myself to walk toward the exit. I heard Ryan call my name, but I didn't turn around. I heard my mother crying, but I kept walking. Outside, the cold night air hit my face like a slap. I pulled out my phone and called an Uber, my hands shaking so badly I could barely type in my address. 3 years of marriage, and this was how it ended. At my own birthday dinner in front of my entire family. When I got home, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, staring at the house Ryan and I had bought together. The house where we had talked about starting a family. The house where we had made love just that morning, where he had kissed me goodbye and told me he loved me. I walked inside and went straight to our bedroom. I pulled out every piece of his clothing from the closet and threw it all into garbage bags. I found his cologne, his books, his stupid collection of baseball cards. Everything that belonged to him went into those bags. By the time Ryan came home an hour later, I had packed everything he owned and left it by the front door. He walked in and saw the bags, then looked at me sitting on the couch with my arms crossed. "Elena, let me explain," he started, but I held up my hand. "There's nothing to explain, Ryan. You've been sleeping with my sister for 6 months. She's pregnant with your baby. You want to be with her. That's all I need to know." He sat down across from me, his face in his hands. "I never meant for this to happen. I love you, Elena. I really do love you. If you loved me, you wouldn't have been sleeping with Sophia. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let her announce it at my birthday dinner in front of my whole family. She insisted on telling everyone tonight. I tried to stop her, but she said it was time everyone knew the truth." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "So this is Sophia's fault? She forced you to cheat on me?" "No, that's not what I meant. I made a mistake, Elena. A huge mistake. But we can work through this. We can go to counseling, we can—" "Get out," I said quietly. "Elena, please. Get out of my house, Ryan. Take your stuff and go to Sophia's apartment. I'm sure she's waiting for you." He stood up slowly, tears in his eyes. "I'm so sorry, Elena. I'm so incredibly sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't take back 6 months of lies. Sorry doesn't make me forget that you got my sister pregnant while you were married to me." After he left, I sat on the couch and cried for 2 hours. I cried for the marriage that was over, for the future we had planned together, for the trust that was broken forever. But mostly I cried because I felt so stupid. How had I not seen this coming? How had I missed all the signs? My phone buzzed with text messages from my family, but I didn't read them. I didn't want to hear their apologies or their explanations. I didn't want to hear that they were shocked because I was sure some of them had known about this before tonight. I went to bed alone in the house that felt too big and too quiet. Tomorrow I would figure out what to do next. Tonight I would just let myself fall apart. But as I lay there staring at the ceiling, I realized something. The hurt was real and the betrayal was devastating. But underneath all that pain there was something else growing. Something that felt like anger. Something that felt like determination. They had humiliated me in front of my family. They had destroyed my marriage and my trust. But they hadn't destroyed me. And maybe, just maybe, it was time they learned that Elena Rodriguez wasn't the kind of woman who would just quietly disappear. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Ryan and 43 text messages from various family members. My head was pounding and my eyes were swollen from crying, but I felt clearer than I had in months. Maybe even years. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table reading through the messages. My mother was devastated and apologetic. My father was angry and wanted to have a word with Ryan. My cousins were shocked and supportive. But there was nothing from Sophia. Not a single message of apology or explanation. At 10 in the morning, Ryan showed up at my door. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept at all. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, and his eyes were red and puffy. "Elena, we need to talk," he said when I opened the door. "I thought we talked enough last night. Please, just give me 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I let him in. He sat on the edge of the couch, looking around the living room like he was seeing it for the first time. "I ended it with Sophia," he said quickly. "This morning I told her it was over. I told her I want to work things out with you." I almost laughed. "You ended it? Ryan, she's pregnant with your baby. You can't just end it." "I know it's complicated, but we can figure it out. I'll pay child support, but I don't have to be in a relationship with her. I want to be with you, Elena. I want to save our marriage." "Why?" I asked, genuinely curious. "Why do you want to save it now?" He looked confused by the question. "Because I love you. Because you're my wife. Because what I did was wrong and I want to make it right. When you were sleeping with my sister for 6 months, did you love me then?" "Yes," he said immediately. "I know it sounds impossible, but yes. I loved you the whole time. What happened with Sophia was just sex, Elena. It didn't mean anything. It meant enough to make a baby." He winced. "That was an accident. We were always careful, but—" "Stop," I said, holding up my hand. "I don't want to hear the details of your sex life with my sister. I'm sorry. I just want you to understand that it wasn't about love. It was about— I don't know. It was stupid and selfish and wrong." I studied his face, trying to see if there was any sincerity there. "If it didn't mean anything, why did it go on for 6 months? Why didn't you stop after the first time?" He was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. I kept telling myself it was the last time, but then it would happen again. And then she told me she was pregnant and everything got complicated." "When did she tell you?" 2 weeks ago. "And you didn't think to tell me? You were going to let me find out at my birthday dinner?" I was trying to figure out what to do. I wanted to tell you, but I didn't know how. And then Sophia said she was going to tell everyone at dinner, and I couldn't stop her. "You couldn't stop her, or you didn't want to?" I tried to talk her out of it, but she said she was tired of hiding. She said everyone deserved to know the truth. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street where we used to take walks together. "The truth is that you betrayed me with my own sister. The truth is that you're going to be a father to her baby. The truth is that our marriage is over. Elena, please don't say that. We can work through this. People get through affairs all the time. People get through affairs with strangers, Ryan. Or coworkers or friends. They don't get through affairs with their sister-in-law who's carrying their husband's baby. I'll do anything to make this right. I'll go to therapy, I'll cut off all contact with Sophia except for the baby. You'll what?" I turned to face him. "You'll never see your own child? Or you'll see the child and never speak to its mother? How exactly do you think that's going to work?" He didn't have an answer for that, which didn't surprise me. Ryan had always been the type to make promises he couldn't keep. "I need to ask you something," I said, sitting back down. "And I need you to be honest with me." "Okay. How long have you been unhappy in our marriage?" He looked surprised by the question. "I haven't been unhappy. I love being married to you." "Then why did you cheat?" "It wasn't about being unhappy. It was about— I don't know. It was about something being available that I couldn't resist." "My sister was available, so you took her?" "It wasn't like that. It started innocent. We were talking more when she came over for dinner, and then we started texting, and then you started sleeping together." "Yes." I felt surprisingly calm having this conversation. Maybe because I was finally getting the truth, or maybe because I was already mentally preparing for what came next. "Do you love her?" I asked. "No," he said quickly. "I already told you it was just sex. But you're going to be connected to her forever because of this baby." "I know. And I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry that our lives are going to be complicated because of my mistake." "Your mistake," I repeated. "Is that what you're calling it?" "What else would I call it?" "A choice. You made a choice to betray me. You made a choice to sleep with my sister. You made a choice to lie to me for 6 months. Those weren't mistakes, Ryan. Those were decisions." He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. What can I do to fix this? Nothing, I said simply. There's nothing you can do to fix this. So that's it? You're just going to throw away 3 years of marriage? I'm not throwing anything away. You already threw it away when you slept with Sophia. He stood up and started pacing around the living room. This is insane, Elena. People make mistakes. People cheat. It doesn't mean the marriage has to end. It does for me. What about everything we built together? What about the business? What about the house? What about our plans for the future? The business is mine. I built it before I met you. The house is in my name. And our plans for the future died when you decided to make a baby with my sister. He stopped pacing and stared at me. You're really serious about this? I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Fine, he said, his voice turning cold. If that's how you want it, then fine. But don't think this is going to be easy. I'm not just going to walk away from everything we built together. What's that supposed to mean? It means I have rights too. I've been working in your business for 2 years. I helped you grow it. I'm entitled to something. I felt my stomach drop. You're entitled to nothing. You were an employee, not a partner. We'll see about that, he said, heading for the door. We'll see what a lawyer says about that. After he left, I sat in my living room feeling like I had just been punched in the gut. The man I had married, the man I had trusted with my heart and my business, was now threatening to take everything from me. But as I sat there, I realized something important. I wasn't the same woman who had gone to her birthday dinner last night. That woman had been trusting and naive. This woman was something different. This woman was ready to fight. For the next 3 days, I didn't leave my house. I called in sick to work, ignored my phone, and spent most of my time in bed. But on Thursday morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. I drove to my office, a small building downtown where I ran my marketing consultancy. I had started the business 5 years ago with just me and a laptop, and now I had 12 employees and clients across the state. It was my pride and joy, and the thought of Ryan trying to take any of it made my blood boil. My assistant, Lisa, looked surprised to see me. Elena, I thought you were sick. I'm feeling better. Can you ask everyone to give me some space today? I have some important work to do. I locked myself in my office and started going through financial records. If Ryan was going to try to claim part of my business, I needed to understand exactly what he had access to and what he didn't. What I found made me feel sick all over again. For the past 6 months, Ryan had been transferring money from the business account to his personal account. Small amounts at first, just a few $100s here and there. But recently, the amounts had gotten bigger. Much bigger. I pulled up the bank statements and went through them line by line. In total, he had stolen over $40,000 from my business. Money that I had worked my ass off to earn, money that belonged to my employees and their families. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that he had been using the money to buy things for Sophia. Jewelry, clothes, expensive dinners, weekend trips to hotels. He had been funding his affair with my sister using money stolen from my business. I printed out every bank statement, every transaction, every piece of evidence. Then I called my accountant and asked him to come to my office immediately. Elena, this is bad, Tom said after reviewing the documents. This is embezzlement. This is a serious crime. I know. What do I need to do? First, you need to secure your accounts. Change all passwords, remove his access to everything. Then you need to call the police. The police? Elena, he stole $40,000. That's a felony. He could go to prison for this. The thought of Ryan in prison should have made me feel bad, but it didn't. It made me feel something else entirely. Something that felt like justice. After Tom left, I called my lawyer. Sandra Martinez had helped me set up my business years ago, and she was one of the few people I trusted completely. Elena, I heard about what happened. I'm so sorry. Thank you. But I need your help with something else now. I told her about the stolen money, about Ryan's threats to take part of my business, about everything that had happened since the birthday dinner. This changes everything, Sandra said. If he's been stealing from the business, he has no legal standing to claim any part of it. In fact, he's going to be in serious legal trouble. Good. I want to press charges. Are you sure? He's still your husband. This could get very messy. I'm sure. He betrayed me and then he stole from me. I'm not going to let him get away with either. That afternoon, I went to the police station and filed a report. The detective, a middle-aged woman named Detective Johnson, listened to my story and looked through my evidence. This is a clear case of embezzlement, she said. We'll need to investigate, but based on what you've shown me, there's definitely grounds for charges. What happens now? We'll bring him in for questioning. If he confesses or if the evidence is strong enough, we'll arrest him. He'll be charged with embezzlement, possibly theft, depending on how the prosecutor wants to handle it. I left the police station feeling like I was finally taking control of my life again. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more stop to make. I drove to Sophia's apartment building and sat in my car for 10 minutes, building up the courage to go inside. I hadn't spoken to her since the birthday dinner, and I wasn't sure what I was going to say. She answered the door in a bathrobe, looking surprised to see me. "Elena, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you." "I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's exactly what we need to do." She let me in reluctantly. Her apartment was small but nice, and I could see evidence of Ryan's presence everywhere. His jacket hanging on a chair, his shoes by the door, his coffee mug on the kitchen counter. "Where is he?" I asked. "At work. He's been staying here since Monday. Since the night he came home and begged me to take him back?" She looked uncomfortable. "He told me he talked to you. He said you wouldn't listen to reason." "Reason? Is that what you call it?" "Elena, I know you're angry, but angry doesn't begin to cover it, Sophia. You slept with my husband. You got pregnant with his baby. You announced it at my birthday dinner in front of our entire family. And now you're living with him like you're some kind of happy couple. It wasn't supposed to happen like this," she said quietly. "How was it supposed to happen? Were you planning to keep it a secret forever?" "I don't know. I wasn't planning any of this. But you were planning to sleep with my husband." She sat down on her couch and put her head in her hands. "Just happened, Elena. I know that sounds stupid, but it really just happened. Things don't just happen, Sophia. People make choices. You chose to flirt with my husband. You chose to text him. You chose to sleep with him. You chose to keep sleeping with him for 6 months. I know. I know I made terrible choices. And now you're having his baby. Yes. Are you happy about it?" She looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "I don't know. I'm scared. I'm confused. I never wanted to hurt you, Elena. But you did hurt me. You destroyed my marriage." "I know. I'm sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry." I studied her face, looking for any sign that she was lying. But all I saw was a scared, pregnant woman who had made a series of terrible decisions. "Do you love him?" I asked. "I think so. I thought I did. But now I'm not sure if what I felt was love or just excitement about doing something forbidden." "Well, it's not forbidden anymore. You got what you wanted. I didn't want to destroy your marriage. Then you should have thought about that before you slept with my husband." I stood up to leave, but then I turned back to her. "There's something else you need to know. Ryan has been stealing money from my business. $40,000. He's been using it to buy you things, to take you on trips, to fund your whole relationship." Her face went pale. "What?" "The police are going to arrest him. He's going to be charged with embezzlement. He could go to prison." "Elena, no. You can't do this to him." "I'm not doing anything to him. He did this to himself." "But what about the baby? What about our future?" "That's not my problem anymore, Sophia. You wanted him and now you have him. But you don't get to have him without the consequences of what he's done." I left her apartment feeling like I had finally said everything I needed to say. But as I drove home, I realized that this was just the beginning. If Ryan thought he could threaten me and steal from me, he was about to learn just how wrong he was. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything that had happened, everything I had learned. Ryan wasn't just the cheating husband anymore. He was a criminal who had been stealing from my business to fund his affair with my sister. At 3 in the morning, I got up and made a pot of coffee. I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and started writing down everything I knew, everything I could prove, and everything I wanted to happen next. The truth was, I didn't just want justice. I wanted revenge. I wanted Ryan to face consequences for what he had done to me, to my business, and to my employees who trusted me to protect their jobs. I wanted him to understand that his actions had real consequences. But I also wanted to be smart about it. I didn't want to do anything that would hurt me in the long run or damage my business. I needed a plan that would expose Ryan's crimes while protecting everything I had worked so hard to build. The next morning, I called my lawyer again. "Sandra, I need your advice on something." "What's going on?" "I want to make sure Ryan faces full consequences for what he's done. Not just the criminal charges, but everything. I want him to understand that he can't steal from me and threaten me and expect to get away with it." "Elena, I understand you're angry, but you need to be careful. Revenge can backfire. This isn't revenge. This is justice." "What exactly are you thinking?" "I want to make sure everyone knows what he did. His friends, his coworkers, his family. I want them to know that he's not just a cheating husband, but a thief who stole from his wife's business. Elena, that could be considered defamation if you're not careful. Even if it's all true? Even if it's all true. You need to be strategic about this. Let the legal system handle the criminal charges. Focus on protecting your business and your reputation. But I wasn't satisfied with that answer. I wanted more than just legal consequences. I wanted Ryan to feel the same humiliation and betrayal that I had felt. That afternoon I got an idea. I called my marketing team together for a meeting. I need to tell you all something, I said, looking around the conference room at the 12 people who worked for me. Ryan is no longer employed by this company. He's been stealing money from our business accounts, and he's been charged with embezzlement. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Lisa spoke up. Elena, we're so sorry. We had no idea. I know you didn't. And I want you to know that this won't affect your jobs or your paychecks. The money will be recovered and the business is strong. But I needed you to know the truth. What can we do to help? Asked Jake, one of my senior account managers. Just keep doing the excellent work you've been doing. And if anyone asks about Ryan, tell them the truth. He's no longer with the company because he was stealing from us. That evening, I got a call from Detective Johnson. Elena, we brought Ryan in for questioning today. He confessed to taking the money. He confessed. Yes. He said he was planning to pay it back, but he admitted to taking it. He'll be formally charged tomorrow. What happens next? He'll be arraigned and then there will be a trial. With his confession, it's likely he'll plea bargain. He's looking at possible jail time, definitely probation, and he'll have to pay restitution. After I hung up, I felt a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Ryan was going to face consequences for his actions, but it also meant that everything we had built together was truly over. But then I thought about Sophia, living in her apartment with Ryan, thinking they were going to have some kind of happy ending. I thought about how she had smiled when she announced her pregnancy at my birthday dinner. I thought about how she had said it just happened, like she was some kind of victim. I picked up my phone and called my cousin Maria, who worked as a social media manager for a local news station. Maria, I need a favor. Elena, I heard what happened. Are you okay? I'm fine. But I need your help with something. Ryan is being charged with embezzlement. He stole $40,000 from my business to fund his affair with Sophia. Oh my God. That's terrible. I want people to know what he did. Not just the affair but the theft. I want his friends and co-workers to know that he's not just a cheating husband, but a criminal. Elena, are you sure about this? Once a story like this gets out, you can't take it back. I'm sure. He humiliated me in front of our entire family. He stole from my business. He threatened to take everything I've worked for. I want him to face the consequences of his actions. Okay, I can make some calls. But you need to be prepared for this to get messy. It's already messy. Now I want it to be fair. That night, I made a list of everyone who needed to know the truth. Ryan's coworkers, his friends, his golf buddies, his family. I wasn't going to call them all personally, but I was going to make sure the information was available to them. I also made a list of everyone who had supported me since the birthday dinner. My parents, my other siblings, my friends, my employees. These were the people who mattered, the people who would help me rebuild my life. As I was making these lists, I realized something important. For the first time since this all started, I wasn't thinking about Ryan and Sophia. I was thinking about me, about my future, about what I wanted to do next. I had spent 3 years of my life building a marriage with a man who had betrayed me in the worst possible way. But I had also spent 5 years building a business that was successful and growing. I had employees who depended on me, clients who trusted me, and a reputation that I had earned through hard work and integrity. Ryan had tried to take that away from me, but he had failed. And now it was time for me to show him and everyone else that Elena Rodriguez was not the kind of woman who would be destroyed by betrayal. I was the kind of woman who would fight back. And I was just getting started. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from Ryan. I didn't call him back. Instead, I got dressed in my best business suit and drove to the law office of James Morrison, the criminal defense attorney that Detective Johnson had recommended. James Morrison's office was in a tall building downtown, with windows that overlooked the city. When I walked in, I expected to meet an older man with gray hair and a stern expression. Instead, I was greeted by a man about my age with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Ms. Rodriguez, please come in," he said, gesturing to a chair across from his desk. "I understand you're dealing with a difficult situation." "That's putting it mildly," I said, settling into the chair. "My husband has been stealing from my business and he's been charged with embezzlement." Detective Johnson filled me in on the basics. But I'd like to hear your side of the story. So I told him everything. The birthday dinner, the affair, the discovery of the stolen money, the threats Ryan had made about taking part of my business. James listened without interrupting, taking notes occasionally. This is a complicated situation, he said when I finished. You're dealing with both criminal charges and civil issues. The good news is that with his confession, the criminal case is pretty straightforward. The bad news is that the civil issues could get messy. What do you mean? Well, you're married, so he might try to claim spousal rights to business assets. He might argue that he contributed to the growth of the business during your marriage. But he was stealing from the business, which actually works in your favor. It's hard to claim you deserve part of a business that you've been stealing from. So what do I need to do? First, we need to make sure you're protected. We'll file for divorce immediately, and we'll include claims for the stolen money. We'll also put together a comprehensive financial statement showing exactly what he took and how it damaged your business. What about the criminal case? That's not really my area, but I can refer you to a prosecutor who can walk you through what to expect. The important thing is that you cooperate fully with the investigation. As we talked, I found myself feeling more confident than I had in days. James was smart and thorough, and he seemed to genuinely care about protecting my interests. Can I ask you something? I said as our meeting was winding down. Of course. Do you think I'm being vindictive? Everyone keeps telling me I should try to work things out with Ryan, that I should consider what this will do to the baby. James was quiet for a moment. Ms. Rodriguez, your husband betrayed your trust in the most personal way possible. Then he stole from your business. Then he threatened to take everything you've worked for. You have every right to protect yourself and seek justice. But what about the baby? What about Sophia? That's not your responsibility. You didn't create this situation. You're just dealing with the consequences of other people's choices. Sometimes I feel like I'm being too harsh. Can I tell you something? I've been practicing law for 15 years and I've seen a lot of cases like this. The people who feel guilty about standing up for themselves are usually the ones who deserve justice the most. When I left James's office, I felt like I had an ally for the first time since this whole nightmare began. But I also felt something else, a growing attraction to the man who was helping me fight for my life. That afternoon, I went back to my office and called a staff meeting. I had decided to be completely transparent with my employees about what was happening. I know I told you yesterday that Ryan is no longer with the company, I said, looking around the conference room. But I need to give you more details because this might affect our business in the short term. I explained about the embezzlement charges, about the money that had been stolen, about the possibility of media attention. I also explained that I was divorcing Ryan and that there might be legal complications. The most important thing I want you to know is that this company is strong, I said. We have good clients, good contracts, and a good reputation. What Ryan did was wrong, but it doesn't reflect on the work we do or the integrity of this business. What can we do to help? Asked Sarah, one of my account coordinators. Keep doing excellent work. Be prepared to answer questions from clients or media if they come up. And trust that I'm going to fight to protect this company and all of your jobs. After the meeting, Lisa came to my office. Elena, I need to tell you something. Ryan called here this morning asking to speak to you. What did you tell him? I told him you weren't taking his calls. But he seemed really upset. He said he needed to talk to you about something important. Everything he has to say can go through our lawyers now. There's something else. He mentioned that he's been getting calls from reporters. I think the story is getting out. I felt a mix of satisfaction and nervousness. I had wanted the truth to come out, but I wasn't sure I was ready for the media attention. That evening, I got a call from James. Elena, I've been contacted by a reporter from the local news station. They want to interview you about the embezzlement case. Already? Word travels fast in legal circles. The question is, do you want to talk to them? I don't know. What do you think? I think it could be beneficial. It gives you a chance to tell your side of the story, to show that you're the victim here, not the villain. But you need to be prepared for them to ask about the affair, about your sister, about everything. I can handle that. Okay. But I want to coach you first. Media interviews can be tricky. We spent the next hour on the phone with James helping me prepare for potential questions. He taught me how to stay focused on the facts, how to avoid getting emotional, how to protect my business's reputation while still telling the truth. The most important thing is to remember that you're not just Elena Rodriguez, the betrayed wife, he said. You're Elena Rodriguez, the successful business owner who was victimized by employee theft. That's the story you want to tell. What if they ask about Sophia? You acknowledge that the affair happened, but you focus on the financial crime. You can say something like, while the personal betrayal was devastating, the theft from my business was a crime that affected not just me, but my employees and their families. After we hung up, I sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened over the past week. A week ago, I had been a happily married woman planning to start a family with my husband. Now I was a divorced woman preparing to give media interviews about my husband's crimes. But for the first time since the birthday dinner, I felt like I was in control of my own story. I felt like I was fighting back instead of just surviving. My phone buzzed with a text message from an unknown number. Elena, this is Sophia. Please call me. We need to talk. I stared at the message for a long time before deleting it. I had already said everything I needed to say to Sophia. Now it was time to focus on my own future. 3 days later, I got a call that changed everything. It was from Tom, my accountant, and he sounded panicked. Elena, someone tried to access your business accounts this morning. The bank called me because they flagged it as suspicious activity. What kind of access? Someone tried to transfer money out of your operating account. A lot of money. $50,000. My blood ran cold. Please tell me the transfer didn't go through. It didn't? The bank blocked it because we had already flagged Ryan's access as compromised. But Elena, this means he still has some way to get into your accounts. That's impossible. I changed all the passwords. He might have access through a different route. Maybe he set up some kind of automatic transfer before you changed the passwords, or maybe he has account information you don't know about. I called James immediately. Ryan just tried to steal $50,000 from my business accounts. What? When? This morning. The bank stopped it, but James, this means he's still actively trying to steal from me. This is good news, actually. Good news? He almost stole $50,000. But he didn't. And now we have evidence that he's continuing to commit crimes even after being charged. This is going to strengthen the case against him significantly. What do we do now? We set a trap. That afternoon, James and I met with Detective Johnson and a prosecutor named Lisa Chin. We explained what had happened with the attempted transfer. This is exactly what we need, Detective Johnson said. If we can catch him in the act of stealing again, it will make the case much stronger. What do you have in mind? I asked. We set up a controlled situation where he thinks he has access to your accounts, but we're monitoring everything. If he tries to steal again, we'll have him on video and we'll have real-time evidence of the crime. Is that legal? Completely legal, Lisa Chin said. He's already been charged with embezzlement. If he commits another crime, we can add additional charges. What would I need to do? We'd need you to contact him, Detective Johnson explained. Tell him you want to meet to discuss the divorce settlement. Make him think you might be willing to work out some kind of deal. While you're meeting with him, we'll be monitoring your accounts to see if he tries to access them. You want me to lie to him? You want me to pretend I'm willing to work things out? Just long enough to see if he'll incriminate himself further. I thought about it for a moment. The idea of seeing Ryan again, of pretending to be willing to forgive him, made my stomach turn. But I also knew that this could be the evidence we needed to put him away for a long time. Okay, I said. I'll do it. That evening I called Ryan. He answered on the first ring. Elena? Thank God. I've been trying to reach you for days. I know. I needed some time to think. And I think we need to talk. Face to face. Really? You mean it? I mean it. But not at home. Somewhere neutral. Okay. Where? How about that coffee shop downtown? The one where we had our first date? Yes. Perfect. When? Tomorrow morning. 10 o'clock. Elena, I'm so glad you called. I've been thinking about everything and I have some ideas about how we can work this out. We'll talk tomorrow? After I hung up, I felt sick. But I also felt determined. If Ryan was going to keep trying to steal from me, I was going to make sure he got caught. The next morning, I met with Detective Johnson and her team at the police station. They fitted me with a small recording device and went over the plan one more time. Remember, we're not asking you to get him to confess to anything, Detective Johnson said. We just want to see if he'll try to access your accounts while he thinks you're distracted. What if he doesn't? Then we'll have tried. But based on what happened yesterday, I think he will. I drove to the coffee shop feeling nervous and angry. I hadn't seen Ryan since the day he had threatened me about the business, and I wasn't sure how I was going to react to seeing him again. He was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He looked terrible, thinner than I remembered, with dark circles under his eyes and stubble on his face. Elena, he said, standing up when he saw me. You look beautiful. Thank you. I sat down across from him, trying to keep my expression neutral. I ordered your usual. Vanilla latte extra shot. Thank you. Elena, I can't tell you how glad I am that you wanted to meet. I've been thinking about everything and I have a proposal. I'm listening. I know I made terrible mistakes. I know I hurt you and broke your trust. But I think we can work through this. What about Sophia? What about the baby? I'll take care of my responsibilities to the baby, but I don't have to be in a relationship with Sophia. I can pay child support and see the kid occasionally, but I want to be with you. I forced myself to nod, even though the idea of taking him back made me feel sick. What about the money you took from the business? I'll pay it all back. Every penny. I already talked to my lawyer about setting up a payment plan. That's $40,000, Ryan. How are you going to pay that back? I'll figure it out. I'll get a loan, or I'll sell some things, or I'll work extra hours. Whatever it takes. What about your job? I might lose it when this all comes out. But I'll find another one. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. For the next hour, we talked about his plans to make things right. He was charming and apologetic, the way he had been when we first met. If I hadn't known what I knew about him, I might have been tempted to believe him. But I did know what I knew. And while we were talking, I was thinking about the team of police officers who were monitoring my accounts, waiting to see if Ryan would try to steal from me again. I need to use the bathroom, I said, standing up. Of course. I'll be right here. I walked to the bathroom, but instead of going inside, I stepped outside the coffee shop and called Detective Johnson. Anything? I asked. He's been on his phone for the past 10 minutes. We're seeing some activity on your accounts, but nothing conclusive yet. What kind of activity? Someone is trying to access your online banking. We're letting them get pretty far into the system before we block them. Is it definitely him? We can't be completely sure, but the timing is very suspicious. I went back inside, feeling my heart racing. Ryan was still at the table, but his phone was now face down beside his coffee cup. Everything okay? He asked. Fine. Just checking messages. Elena, I know this is a lot to process, but I really think we can make this work. I really think we can get back to where we were. Where we were? I repeated. You mean when you were stealing from my business and sleeping with my sister? His face fell. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I meant when we were happy. When we were planning our future together. We can't go back to that, Ryan. Too much has happened. But we can build something new. Something better. My phone buzzed with a text message. I glanced at it quickly. It was from Detective Johnson. Got him. I looked back at Ryan, who was watching me with hopeful eyes. Ryan, I need to tell you something. What? I've been recording this conversation. And while we've been talking, you've been trying to steal more money from my business accounts. His face went completely white. What? The police are monitoring my accounts. They've been watching you try to access them for the past hour. Elena, I don't know what you're talking about. Your phone, Ryan? You've been using your phone to try to steal from me while you were sitting here telling me how you want to make things right. He looked down at his phone, then back at me. I was just... You were just what? I was checking my bank account. I was trying to figure out how to pay you back. By stealing more money from me? He didn't answer. He just sat there, staring at his phone like it was going to disappear. The police are on their way, I said, standing up. You're under arrest for attempted embezzlement. Elena, please. Don't do this. I'm not doing this, Ryan. You did this. You chose to keep stealing from me even after being charged with embezzlement. You chose to lie to me even while you were trying to convince me to take you back. I was desperate. I didn't know what else to do. You could have told the truth. You could have actually tried to make things right instead of making them worse. Detective Johnson came into the coffee shop with 2 uniformed officers. Ryan Martinez, you're under arrest for attempted embezzlement and computer fraud. As they handcuffed him, Ryan looked at me with tears in his eyes. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said. But sorry doesn't fix anything. I watched them take him away, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I had wanted to catch him in the act, and I had. But seeing him arrested in handcuffs was harder than I had expected. You did the right thing, Detective Johnson said as we walked out of the coffee shop. He would have kept stealing from you until there was nothing left to steal. I know. But it still feels strange. That's normal. But Elena, you need to understand something. This man was never going to stop. He was never going to change. He was going to keep lying to you and stealing from you until you had nothing left. As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened. Ryan wasn't just a cheating husband anymore. He was a criminal who had been caught in the act of trying to steal from me again. And now he was going to face the full consequences of his actions. But more importantly, I had stood up for myself. I had refused to be a victim. I had fought back and I had won. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. The story of Ryan's arrest had broken overnight, and apparently, it was bigger news than I had expected. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table reading through the messages. Some were from reporters wanting interviews. Some were from friends and family offering support. Some were from clients worried about my business. But the most interesting ones were from people I barely knew, former co-workers of Ryan's, people from our neighborhood, even some of Sophia's friends. Word was spreading fast and everyone wanted to know the details. At 9 o'clock, James called. "Elena, have you seen the news?" "No, I've been trying to avoid it." "Turn on Channel 7. They're doing a story about the case." I turned on the TV and saw a reporter standing outside the courthouse. A local businessman was arrested yesterday for embezzling money from his wife's marketing firm to fund an affair with her sister. Ryan Martinez was charged with embezzlement and computer fraud after allegedly stealing over $90,000 from Rodriguez Marketing Solutions. $90,000. The number hit me like a punch to the gut. The attempt yesterday had been for $50,000, which meant the total amount he had stolen was much higher than I had realized. In a bizarre twist, the reporter continued, Martinez was arrested while meeting with his wife, apparently trying to reconcile their marriage. Police say he was attempting to steal additional funds from the business while telling his wife he wanted to make amends for his affair. The story included a photo of me from my company website, a photo of Ryan from his LinkedIn profile, and a photo of the coffee shop where he had been arrested. They didn't show Sophia's face, but they mentioned that the affair was with the victim's sister, who is pregnant with Martinez's child. I turned off the TV and called James back. "This is bigger than I expected." "I know. Are you okay with the attention?" "I think so. At least they're telling the truth. That's the important thing. And Elena, this actually helps us. Public attention means Ryan can't claim he's the victim here. What happens now? Now we wait for his arraignment. With the additional charges from yesterday, he's looking at serious jail time. His lawyer will probably try to plea bargain. What kind of plea bargain? Probably jail time, probation, and full restitution. But Elena, with 2 separate incidents of embezzlement, he's not going to walk away from this. That afternoon, I got a call from my cousin Maria. "Elena, I've been getting calls from producers. They want to interview you." "What kind of producers?" "Local news, but also some national shows. This story is getting picked up everywhere." "Why?" "Because it's got everything. Betrayal, crime, family drama, a successful businesswoman fighting back. It's the kind of story that gets people's attention." "I'm not sure I want that kind of attention." "Elena, listen to me. You have a choice here. You can let other people tell your story or you can tell it yourself. But the story is going to be told either way." I thought about what she said. She was right, the story was already out there. The question was whether I wanted to control how it was told. "What do you think I should do?" "I think you should do one big interview with a respectable journalist. Tell your story completely and honestly. Then you can refer all other requests to that interview." "Do you have someone in mind?" "Actually, yes. Rebecca Chin from Channel 7. She's the one who broke the story and she's fair and professional. She won't try to make you look bad." That evening, I called Rebecca Chin directly. She was surprised to hear from me. "Ms. Rodriguez, I've been hoping you'd call. I'd love to interview you about what happened. I'm willing to do an interview, but I have conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "I want it to be comprehensive. I want to tell the whole story, not just sound bites. I want to talk about the affair, the theft, the impact on my business, all of it." "I can do that. When would you like to do it?" "Tomorrow. And I want it to be live so no one can edit my words." "That's unusual, but I think we can arrange it." The next morning, I met with Rebecca Chin at the Channel 7 studios. She was a woman about my age with kind eyes and a professional demeanor. "Are you ready for this?" she asked as we sat down in front of the cameras. "I'm ready." "We're going live in 5 minutes. Is there anything you want to say before we start?" "Just that I'm tired of other people telling my story. It's time for me to tell it myself." When the cameras rolled, Rebecca started with the basic facts. Elena Rodriguez is the owner of Rodriguez Marketing Solutions, a successful consulting firm. Last week, her husband was arrested for embezzling money from her business to fund an affair with her sister. "Elena, thank you for joining us." "Thank you for having me." Let's start at the beginning. When did you first suspect something was wrong? I didn't suspect anything. I found out about the affair and the theft at the same time at my birthday dinner. My sister announced that she was pregnant with my husband's baby. That must have been devastating. It was. But what I found out later was even worse. While they were having their affair, my husband was stealing money from my business to pay for it. He was taking money that belonged to me and my employees and using it to buy gifts for my sister. For the next 30 minutes, I told the whole story. The affair, the theft, the lies, the attempted reconciliation that was really just another attempt to steal from me. I talked about the impact on my business, on my employees, on my family. What do you want people to understand about this situation? Rebecca asked. I want them to understand that this wasn't just a personal betrayal. This was a crime. When someone steals from a business, they're not just stealing from the owner. They're stealing from the employees who depend on that business for their livelihoods. What about your sister? Have you spoken to her since all this came out? No. And I don't plan to. She made her choice when she decided to have an affair with my husband. She's living with the consequences of that choice. Some people might say you're being too harsh. That family should forgive family. Some people might say that. But those people didn't have their sister sleep with their husband and then sit through a birthday dinner where that sister announced her pregnancy like it was good news. What's next for you? I'm rebuilding. My business is strong, my employees are loyal, and I'm focused on the future. I'm not going to let what happened to me define who I am. Any regrets? I regret trusting people who didn't deserve my trust. But I don't regret fighting back. I don't regret standing up for myself and my business. When the interview was over, I felt exhausted but relieved. I had told my story, the whole story, and I had done it on my own terms. You did great, Rebecca said as they were removing my microphone. That was one of the most powerful interviews I've ever done. Thank you. I just wanted people to know the truth. I think they do now. As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened over the past 2 weeks. I had gone from being a happily married woman to being a divorced woman whose story was being told on the news. But I had also gone from being a victim to being a survivor. And for the first time since the birthday dinner, I felt like I was in control of my own life. The interview aired that evening, and within hours, it had been shared thousands of times on social media. My phone was buzzing constantly with calls and messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Most of the messages were supportive. Old friends from college, former coworkers, even some clients I hadn't spoken to in months reached out to tell me how brave I was, how proud they were of me for standing up for myself. But there were also messages from people who thought I was being too harsh, too vindictive, too public about private matters. Some people said I should have tried harder to save my marriage. Others said I should have handled the situation quietly, without involving the media. I didn't respond to any of them. I had said what I needed to say, and I wasn't going to defend my choices to people who didn't understand the situation. But the message that surprised me the most came from my mother. Elena, I saw your interview. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. I'm sorry I didn't support you more from the beginning. I called her back immediately. Mom, you don't need to apologize. Yes, I do. When this first happened, I was so shocked that I didn't know what to say. And then I kept thinking about the baby, about Sophia, about trying to keep the family together. But I should have been thinking about you. I understand why you were confused. This isn't exactly a normal situation. No, it's not. But you're my daughter, and you deserved my support from the beginning. I have it now. That's what matters. Elena, I need to tell you something. Sophia came to see me yesterday. My stomach dropped. What did she want? She wanted me to talk to you. She said she was sorry about everything and she wanted to make things right. What did you tell her? I told her that she should have thought about making things right before she slept with your husband. I told her that she created this situation, and now she has to live with it. How did she react? She cried. She said she never meant for things to go this far. She said she was scared and didn't know what to do. What did you say to that? I said that being scared doesn't excuse what she did. I said that she's going to be a mother soon, and she needs to learn that actions have consequences. Thank you for standing up for me. You're my daughter, Elena. I should have done it sooner. That evening, I got a call from James. Elena, I need to tell you about some developments in the case. What kind of developments? Ryan's lawyer contacted me today. He wants to discuss a plea bargain. What kind of plea bargain? He's offering to plead guilty to all charges in exchange for a shorter sentence. He'd still go to jail, but probably for 6 months instead of 2 years. What do you think? I think it's a reasonable offer. It guarantees that he'll be convicted and sentenced, and it saves you from having to testify at a trial. But what about the money he stole? He'll still have to pay full restitution plus interest and penalties. And he'll have a felony conviction on his record. What about the impact on my business? That's actually another thing I wanted to discuss with you. Several of your clients called today to express their support. They're not pulling their contracts because of this situation. Really? Really? In fact, 2 of them said they were impressed with how you handled the situation. They said it showed integrity and strength. That's a relief. Elena, I think the public exposure actually helped your business. It showed that you're not someone who will be taken advantage of. I hadn't thought about it that way. There's something else. I've been getting calls from other business owners who've been in similar situations. They want to know if you'd be willing to speak to them about how you handled it. Speak to them? About standing up for yourself when someone is stealing from your business. About not letting personal relationships compromise your professional integrity. I'm not sure I'm ready for that. You don't have to decide now. But I wanted you to know that your story is inspiring other people. After we hung up, I sat in my living room thinking about everything that had happened. 2 weeks ago, I had been focused on my marriage and my business. Now I was focused on rebuilding my life and possibly helping other people who had been in similar situations. The next morning, I went to my office early. I wanted to check in with my employees and make sure they were handling the media attention okay. Elena, we need to talk, Lisa said as soon as I walked in. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's right. We've gotten more new client inquiries in the past 2 days than we usually get in a month. What? People saw your interview and they want to work with someone who has your integrity. They want to work with someone who stands up for what's right. Are you serious? Dead serious. Jake and I have been fielding calls all morning. People are impressed with how you handled this situation. I went to my office and looked at my computer. My email inbox was full of messages from potential clients, media outlets, and other business owners. But there was one message that stood out. It was from a woman named Patricia Williams, who owned a small accounting firm. Elena, I saw your interview last night. 3 years ago, my business partner was embezzling money from our company. I was too embarrassed to press charges and I ended up losing everything. I wish I had been as brave as you. Thank you for showing other women that we don't have to be victims. I stared at the email for a long time. I had been so focused on getting justice for myself that I hadn't thought about how my actions might affect other people. But apparently, standing up for myself had inspired other women to stand up for themselves too. I called James. I want to accept speaking engagements. I want to talk to other business owners about what happened to me. Are you sure? I'm sure. If my story can help other people avoid what happened to me, or help them handle it better if it does happen, then I want to share it. Okay. I'll start setting up some opportunities for you. And James? Yes. I want to accept the plea bargain. I want this to be over so I can move on with my life. I think that's a good decision. That afternoon I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. Elena, this is Sophia. My heart started racing. Sophia, I told you I don't want to talk to you. Please don't hang up. I need to tell you something. There's nothing you can tell me that I want to hear. Elena, I left him. I was quiet for a moment. What? I left Ryan. I moved out of my apartment and went to stay with our cousin Carmen. I can't be with him anymore. Why? Because of what he did to you. Because of what he tried to do to you. Elena, I knew he was stealing from your business. What? I knew about the money. He told me he was taking it from your business accounts. I told him to stop, but he said you wouldn't miss it, that you were making so much money you wouldn't notice. And you didn't think to tell me? I should have. I know I should have. But I was scared that if I told you, you'd realize that I was part of it. You were part of it. I know. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Elena. Sorry doesn't fix anything, Sophia. I know it doesn't. But I need you to know that I never wanted it to go this far. I never wanted you to get hurt like this. But you did want to sleep with my husband. I don't know what I wanted. I was stupid and selfish and I made terrible decisions. But Elena, I'm having this baby, and I don't want my child to grow up in a family where there's this much hate. There isn't hate, Sophia. There's just nothing. You made your choice and I made mine. Can't we find some way to fix this? No, we can't. You destroyed our relationship when you decided to have an affair with Ryan. You destroyed any chance of fixing it when you let him steal from my business to pay for your affair. Elena, please. Goodbye, Sophia. I hung up the phone and sat in my office, feeling a mix of emotions. Part of me was glad that Sophia had finally left Ryan. Part of me was angry that she had known about the theft and hadn't told me. And part of me was sad that my relationship with my sister was truly over. But mostly I felt relieved. I had made the right choice in cutting them both out of my life. I had protected myself and my business, and I had refused to be a victim. And now it was time to move forward. 2 months later, I found myself sitting in a courtroom, waiting to testify at Ryan's sentencing hearing. Even though he had accepted the plea bargain, the judge wanted to hear from me about the impact of his crimes before deciding on his sentence. I had been dreading this day, but I was also looking forward to it. It would be my chance to tell the court exactly how Ryan's actions had affected me, my business, and my employees. James sat beside me, reviewing my statement one more time. Remember, focus on the facts. Talk about the financial impact, the emotional impact, the impact on your business and your employees. I'm ready. Are you sure you want to do this? You could submit a written statement instead. No. I want to look him in the eye when I tell the court what he did to me. Ryan was already seated at the defendant's table with his lawyer. He looked thin and tired, wearing a cheap suit that didn't fit him well. When he saw me, he looked away quickly. Sophia wasn't there. According to my mother, she had moved to another state to stay with relatives until the baby was born. I was glad she wasn't there. I didn't want to see her face while I was testifying about what they had done to me. Ms. Rodriguez, the judge said when it was my turn to speak, please tell the court how the defendant's actions affected you. I stood up and walked to the witness stand, my hands shaking slightly. I had given interviews and speeches over the past 2 months, but this felt different. This was official. This was justice. Your Honor, Ryan Martinez didn't just steal money from my business. He stole my trust, my security, and my faith in the people I love. But more than that, he put my employees' jobs at risk. He put my clients' trust in jeopardy. He threatened everything I had worked for over the past 5 years. I looked at Ryan, who was staring at the table in front of him. When I discovered that he had been stealing from my business, I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. But when I discovered that he had been using that money to fund his affair with my sister, I felt like my entire world had collapsed. I took a deep breath and continued. The defendant stole over $90,000 from my business. That money represented hours of work, client relationships, employee salaries, and business investments. It wasn't just numbers on a bank statement. It was the foundation of everything I had built. But the financial impact was just the beginning. The defendant's actions forced me to question everything I thought I knew about my marriage, my family, and my business. I had to hire lawyers, investigators, and accountants to understand the full extent of what he had done. I had to explain to my employees why their paychecks might be delayed. I had to reassure my clients that their projects would still be completed on time. I paused, looking at Ryan again. This time he looked up and met my eyes. The defendant betrayed me in the most personal way possible, and then he tried to destroy my business. When I confronted him about the theft, he threatened to take half of everything I owned. When I tried to work things out with him, he used that meeting as an opportunity to steal even more money from me. Your Honor, I'm not asking the court to punish the defendant because he cheated on me. I'm asking the court to punish him because he's a criminal who stole from my business and then tried to steal even more when he thought he could get away with it. The defendant's actions had consequences that went far beyond our marriage. They affected my employees, my clients, and my reputation. They forced me to rebuild not just my personal life, but my professional life as well. I want the court to know that I've recovered from what the defendant did to me. My business is stronger than ever, my employees are loyal and dedicated, and I've learned that I'm capable of surviving and thriving even when the people I trust betray me. But I also want the court to know that what the defendant did was not a mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices to steal from me, lie to me, and try to destroy everything I had worked for. He chose to betray me, and he chose to commit crimes against my business. Your Honor, I'm asking the court to sentence the defendant to the maximum penalty allowed under the law. Not because I want revenge, but because I want justice. I want other people to know that stealing from a business has serious consequences. I want other victims to know that they don't have to be silent or ashamed. I took a deep breath before continuing. The defendant made choices that hurt me, my family, my business, and my employees. He should face the full consequences of those choices. When I finished speaking, I walked back to my seat, feeling like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I had said everything I needed to say. I had spoken my truth in front of a judge, in front of Ryan, and in front of everyone who needed to hear it. Ryan's lawyer spoke next, asking for leniency because Ryan was a first-time offender who was deeply remorseful for his actions. But when the judge asked Ryan if he wanted to say anything, he just shook his head. Mr. Martinez, the judge said, You have pleaded guilty to embezzlement and computer fraud. You have admitted to stealing over $90,000 from your wife's business to fund an extramarital affair. When you were confronted about this theft, you attempted to steal additional funds. These are serious crimes that strike at the heart of trust in business relationships. Small businesses like Ms. Rodriguez's company are the backbone of our economy, and they depend on trust and integrity to survive. You have not only betrayed your wife personally, but you have committed crimes against her business and her employees. Your actions could have destroyed everything she worked to build. However, I note that you have accepted responsibility for your actions by pleading guilty. You have agreed to pay full restitution, and you have expressed remorse for what you've done. Therefore, I sentence you to 18 months in state prison followed by 3 years of probation. You will pay full restitution of $93,000, plus interest and court costs. You will perform 300 hours of community service, and you will have no contact with the victim except through legal counsel. 18 months. It was more than the 6 months his lawyer had hoped for, but less than the 2 years he could have received. I felt a mix of satisfaction and relief. Justice had been served. As the court officers led Ryan away in handcuffs, he looked at me one more time. I thought he might try to mouth, "I'm sorry," or something like that, but he didn't. He just looked at me with sadness in his eyes and then he was gone. After the hearing, James and I walked out of the courthouse together. There were a few reporters waiting outside, but I didn't feel like talking to them. I had said everything I needed to say. "How do you feel?" James asked as we walked to our cars. "Relieved. Like it's finally over." "It is over. You can move on with your life now. Thank you for everything, James. I couldn't have gotten through this without you. You're stronger than you think, Elena. You would have been fine no matter what." As I drove home, I thought about everything that had happened over the past 4 months. I had gone from being a betrayed wife to being a survivor who had fought back and won. I had protected my business, exposed the truth, and seen justice served. But more than that, I had discovered something about myself. I had discovered that I was capable of standing up for myself, of fighting for what was right, of refusing to be a victim. And now it was time to figure out what came next. 6 months after Ryan's sentencing, I was sitting in my office looking at the financial reports for the quarter. My business had not only recovered from the theft, but it had grown significantly. We had hired 3 new employees, signed 5 major new clients, and our revenue was up 40% from the previous year. "Elena," Lisa said, knocking on my office door, "your 3 o'clock appointment is here. Send him in." James walked into my office carrying a bouquet of flowers and wearing a smile that made my heart race. Over the past few months, our professional relationship had slowly turned into something more personal. He had been patient and understanding, never pushing me to move faster than I was comfortable with. "Congratulations," he said, handing me the flowers. "I heard about the Henderson Industries contract." "Thank you. It's been a good week." "A good week? Elena, it's been a good year. You've rebuilt your business, helped other people in similar situations, and somehow managed to become the most inspiring woman I know." "I don't know about inspiring." "I do. Do you know how many women have contacted me asking for your advice on how to handle business theft or betrayal? Do you know how many business owners have implemented new security measures because of your story? I'm just glad something positive came out of everything that happened." "Something positive?" "Elena, you've turned a terrible situation into a platform for helping other people. You've shown that it's possible to survive betrayal and come out stronger. I had good help. You had good instincts and the courage to follow them." James sat down across from my desk. "Elena, I need to ask you something." "What?" "I know we've been taking things slowly and I understand why. But I want you to know that I'm serious about this. About us. I'm serious too." "Good. Because I have something I want to discuss with you." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a legal document. "I've been offered a partnership at a firm in California. It's a great opportunity, but I don't want to take it if it means leaving you. James, you can't turn down a partnership because of me. I'm not turning it down because of you. I'm asking if you'd consider coming with me. To California? Think about it. You could expand your business to the West Coast. There are a lot of opportunities there for someone with your skills and reputation. What about my employees here? You could keep this office and hire a manager to run it. Or you could relocate some of them. There are options." I looked at the legal document, then at James. 6 months ago, I never would have considered leaving the city where I had built my business. But 6 months ago I was a different person. "Can I think about it?" "Of course. Take as much time as you need." That evening, I drove to my parents' house for dinner. It had become a weekly tradition since everything happened with Ryan and Sophia. My family had rallied around me in a way that surprised and comforted me. "You're glowing," my mother said when I walked into the kitchen. "Something good happened today. James asked me to move to California with him." "What did you tell him?" "That I needed to think about it." "What's to think about?" "You love him, don't you?" "Yes, I love him." "And he loves you?" "Yes." "Then what's the problem?" "The problem is that I've just rebuilt my life here. My business is thriving, my employees depend on me, and I'm finally feeling stable again." "Elena, stable isn't the same as happy." "I am happy." "You're content." "There's a difference." My father came into the kitchen carrying a bottle of wine. "What are we talking about?" "James asked Elena to move to California with him," my mother said. "That's wonderful. When are you leaving?" "Dad, I haven't said yes." "Why not?" "Because it's complicated. I have a business here, a life here." "Elena, you're 31 years old. You've built a successful business that can run without you being here every day. You've proven that you can handle anything life throws at you. What are you afraid of?" I thought about his question as we sat down for dinner. What was I afraid of? I wasn't afraid of moving or starting over. I had already done that when I rebuilt my life after Ryan's betrayal. "I think I'm afraid of trusting someone again," I said finally. "That's understandable," my mother said. "But honey, you can't let what Ryan did stop you from having a real relationship with someone who deserves your trust." "James isn't Ryan," my father added. "He's proven himself to you over and over again." "I know. I just need to be sure." "Elena," my mother said, "can I tell you something?" "Of course." "When I saw you at your birthday dinner that night, when Sophia made her announcement, I was terrified for you. I thought you might never recover from that kind of betrayal. But I did recover." "You did more than recover. You fought back, you protected yourself and your business, and you helped other people in the process. You became stronger than I ever imagined you could be." "What's your point?" "My point is that you're not the same woman who was married to Ryan. You're not the same woman who trusted blindly and got hurt. You're a woman who knows her own worth, who can protect herself, who can build a life on her own terms. So maybe it's time to trust yourself to choose better this time." The next morning, I woke up early and went for a run. I needed to clear my head and think about what I really wanted. As I ran through the park where Ryan and I used to walk together, I realized that I wasn't the same person who had done those walks. That woman had been dependent on her husband for emotional support, for validation, for a sense of purpose. This woman was different. This woman had built a successful business, survived a devastating betrayal, and helped other people do the same. This woman didn't need a man to complete her life, but she was ready to share her life with someone who deserved it. When I got home, I called James. "I have an answer for you." "Already?" "Yes. I'll move to California with you." "Really? Really? But I have conditions." "What kind of conditions?" "I want to keep my business here and expand to California. I want to make sure my employees are taken care of. And I want us to live together for at least a year before we make any bigger commitments." "Those all sound reasonable." "And James?" "Yes. I'm not doing this because I need you. I'm doing this because I want to. Because I love you and I want to build a life with you. That's exactly why I want you to do it." 3 months later, I was standing in a new office in Los Angeles, looking out at the Pacific Ocean. My business was thriving in both locations, my employees were happy and successful, and I was in love with a man who respected and supported me. My phone rang and I saw it was Lisa calling from the main office. "Elena, I have news." "Good news or bad news?" "Good news. We just signed the biggest contract in the company's history. The Peterson Group wants us to handle all their marketing for the next 3 years." "That's incredible." "There's more. They specifically asked for you because they heard about how you handled the situation with Ryan. They said they want to work with someone who has integrity and strength." After I hung up, I sat at my desk thinking about how much my life had changed. A year ago, I had been a woman whose husband was stealing from her business to fund his affair with her sister. Today, I was a successful businesswoman living in California with a man who loved and respected me. But the biggest change wasn't in my circumstances. The biggest change was in me. I had learned that I was capable of surviving anything, of fighting back when necessary, and of building a life that I was proud of. That evening, James and I went for a walk on the beach. As we watched the sunset, he took my hand and smiled. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About what?" "About leaving everything behind to start over here." I thought about his question. Did I regret anything that had happened over the past year? "No regrets," I said. Everything that happened led me here to this moment with you. Even the painful parts were necessary. What do you mean? I mean that if Ryan hadn't betrayed me, I never would have discovered how strong I really am. If he hadn't stolen from my business, I never would have learned how to fight for what I believe in. If none of that had happened, I never would have met you. So you're grateful for what happened? I'm grateful for what I learned from what happened. I'm grateful for the woman I became because of it. As we walked back to our apartment, I thought about Sophia and the baby she had given birth to 2 months ago. According to my mother, she was struggling as a single mother, working 2 jobs to make ends meet while Ryan was in prison. I felt sorry for the baby, who had been born into such a complicated situation. But I didn't feel sorry for Sophia. She had made her choices and now she was living with the consequences. I had made my choices too. I had chosen to fight back instead of being a victim. I had chosen to rebuild instead of giving up. I had chosen to trust again instead of closing my heart forever. And as James and I climbed the stairs to our apartment, I knew I had chosen well. I was exactly where I was supposed to be, with exactly the person I was supposed to be with. 6 months later, I got a text message that I had been expecting but dreading. It was from my mother. Ryan was released from prison today. I stared at the message for a long time, waiting to feel something. Fear, anger, sadness, anxiety. But I didn't feel any of those things. I felt nothing at all. Ryan's release from prison was just news to me now, like hearing about something that had happened to a stranger. He was no longer a part of my life, no longer someone who could hurt me or affect my happiness. That night, James proposed to me on the same beach where we had walked that first evening in California. As I looked at the ring on my finger, I realized that this was what a real partnership felt like. This was what it meant to be with someone who supported your dreams instead of stealing from them. Yes, I said before he had even finished asking the question. You don't want to think about it? I've been thinking about it for months. The answer is yes. As we celebrated our engagement, I thought about the woman I had been a year and a half ago. That woman had been naive and trusting, dependent on others for her happiness and security. This woman was different. This woman knew her own worth, trusted her own judgment, and had built a life that she was proud of. This woman had survived betrayal and emerged stronger. And this woman was ready for whatever came next. 3 months later, I was sitting in a doctor's office, staring at an ultrasound screen. Congratulations, the doctor said. You're 8 weeks pregnant. I started crying immediately, but they were happy tears. After everything that had happened, after all the pain and betrayal and rebuilding, I was going to have a baby with a man who loved and respected me. When I told James the news that evening, he picked me up and spun me around our living room. This is perfect, he said. This is absolutely perfect. Are you ready to be a father? I'm ready for anything as long as it's with you. As I fell asleep that night, I thought about the journey that had brought me to this moment. It had been painful and difficult, but it had also been necessary. I had to lose everything I thought I wanted in order to find everything I actually needed. I had to learn to fight for myself before I could learn to build something real with someone else. And now, finally, I was exactly where I belonged.